Good morning. Going to call this emergency meeting of the Nicholas County Commission to order. Today is Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, and it is 8:54 a.m. I did take the liberty of calling this meeting to discuss general county progress on recovery from all of the different damages, as well as our plan to begin the process on rebuilding our courthouse, park, airport, and other facilities.
Good, we're good.
Indian Rocks, the road at least.
Mhm.
We can figure out trails.
Yep, all the way through.
If we could begin with Veterans Memorial Park, we did lose two dugouts, damage to some other dugouts. One of the announcer booths was scooted, but I think it can be just relocated. The senior league field did lose its scoreboard. The red barn lost a portion of its roof. The one-room schoolhouse is a major issue that I think we're going to need outside advice on how to handle. A tree did strike it down through the middle and did destroy the roof. The walls are still mostly intact. They're bowed, but I think it could be salvaged. I think. Sally, myself, and Crandall and the two other staff, we went up, got everything on the other side of the building before the next rain come, and tarped it off to be able to attempt to preserve what we can. And later today, once the storm subside, I want them to actually relocate that to another building. Sally, if you have an idea where you could put all that. Okay. You don't, is your box trailer empty? Yeah. Yeah, I don't want it open air haulers. Some of these books are older than the county. Is there anything else you want to discuss with the park?
You pretty much covered it all.
Some tree work.
Hmm.
There's some tree work to it.
Tree work, one of the pine trees and tunnel wood uprooted. One of the light poles on the football field broke and came down on one of the baseball fences. Laying in the.
No, but that pole was the property of the Board of Ed, not us.
Not,
Okay.
which I guess they got that little tiny building that soccer had there for their.
Oh, it took up that building as well. Okay.
And with the red barn, I know the Christmas lights and stuff are up in there, but is there anything else? And if rain comes straight down, it's gonna damage the inside of the bottom that we actually rent out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
weird
good.
floor right there, so-
Water damage, right?
It's, the hole is basically over all our Christmas stuff. We have old records up there, Dolly Princess and stuff up there.
I think that could be a pretty quick repair in my mind.
Well, yeah, so the structure's there, just the insulation fabric and the metal itself.
Right, yep,
Um,
that'd be a quick fix if you can get somebody up on top of it.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's outsourced for
Yep,
sure.
yep.
That height and everything, and we don't have a bucket truck at the moment, so. In the animal shelter,
Yeah, we have that weatherhead and all that stuff at Dell. I actually contacted Drew this morning. He said if they unhook, which I talked to Noah again this morning.
Mhm.
If they're gonna come unhook that, Drew can be there in the morning to put that back up, put the weatherhead on it, and all they have to do is come hook their, connect it like a new home.
Mhm.
If it's okay if Drew does it.
who's Drew?
That's the guy that's doing our remodel and stuff.
Is he electrician certified?
No, he's not that. Do you have to be?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So then you'll have to get an electrician to do it.
Yes, I think it should be.
That's something that probably had to be done pretty quick.
However, we want his contact information because at the end of this, I'm going to discuss how we can try and move forward quickly on all of this. The airport, do you want to talk about it?
Couldn't get in last night other than the gate. But it looks like we have a hangar that's damaged, blew some doors out and blew out the back of it. So that's the only thing I saw visibly from outside the gate.
So WV Corp is our insurance provider, right?
Yes.
We would want to contact them and see what information is needed, photos, documentation, so we can get on top of it and then maybe just get reimbursed versus them actually pay for those damages. Is that-
Yeah, you should be taking pictures of everything.
Right. Just to make sure we get everything photographed.
Videos.
Sally and I've done mostly at the park.
That's
When you got those ones at the airport, we need to get probably up
I
closer.
sent you those.
Yes, sir. I went out and took video because a tree on Mon Power's line pulled that from your
Yeah,
building.
down by between the gate.
So
and the-
I'm going to contest that a little bit, but if we have to pay for the payment, we have to pay for the payment.
Also on that. village stuff, like the dugouts and stuff, I'm pretty sure Johnson and get that sometimes. I'm not-
The county, we insure it also.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
They could have took out the one.
Yeah, anything that's attached to the property, we insure. Anything homeland related?
We have two slips on our main road going to the Lynchburg Tire. That we're definitely gonna have to get on as soon as this weather breaks, hopefully next week. Because if we lose that road, we won't have access to the tire site. As of at 8:15 this morning, we have 12,527 customers without power in Nicholas. And we are still under a flood warning until 2:45 this afternoon. I did speak with Mon Power and AEP both this morning, and they're estimating power between now and tomorrow at 4.
I think the big thing's gonna be travel time, is that they're pulling people
Yes.
from Indiana as far as
Yes.
Missouri, they gotta get here before they get their work done.
We got power back at the 911 center at 8:15 this morning. The only other critical infrastructure that I know of right now is the water plant at Richwood.
Mhm.
Which I've already called the state on that, so we're working on getting them a generator. Up to their facility. I might have to go to the Nitro warehouse and pick it up this morning, so I'm just waiting on a phone call back from Charleston.
How about the tower that was down yesterday? They fixed a generator on it.
Yes, yes,
Total.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's all we have right now.
Greg, what authority do we have? I mean, we've got, of course, waiting on insurance, but after that, I mean, is there any kind of emergency declaration we can approve that? Well, that we can approve ourselves to streamline construction, this, that, and the other, because, I mean, Little League starts in 2 weeks.
Soon, yeah.
And so if we're gonna have to bid these things out for 2 weeks,
I'll have an answer for you.
okay. Okay, because that's what I'm interested in. I mean, I still think we need to go out and try and get 3 bids, but if we could at least get away from the publication timing.
Yeah, I think at the worst, you should be able to get 3 quotes.
Right.
Yes, okay.
But the main thing is top contractors right now. 'cause everybody's
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and that's another concern too, is absolutely, driving through town. Trying to just keep check with John and dispatch and everything. Every contractor I could see, I flagged down and said, hey, we need to be a priority if you can do it.
Actually, I know contractors are trying to call contractors, so it's that's tough.
Wow. So, anything we've missed?
So are we closed until we get power back down there? It'd be kind of hard to be open.
Yeah, I would say,
I'll
We'll
say
be
close
there.
to the
Right.
public.
We'll be
Right.
there. I just
Yes,
not take any more ambulance
Yes.
just because of the cleaning situation.
yes. No, I agree with that. Concerning your medical situation and vaccine storage and stuff like that.
I'm taking it to Dr. Craig.
Okay,
Yeah. And that's, I mean, the controlled substance doesn't have to be, it's not as temperature sensitive as the vaccines are.
okay,
So we're, as soon as we leave here, we're running them up here.
okay. So Patty, all this being said, what's our process with the insurance company?
Sending photos to me,
We can,
but from the insurance company.
we don't need on site anything. We send photography and that's it.
They may send somebody to.
Right.
Well, if they want to do that, I want to know about it so we can try and push to waive that or
get it done
get
today.
them here quickly. Because Nicholas and Fayette County were the 2 hardest hit counties roughly in this region, so they need to come to Fayette and Nicholas.
If you need anything else, you must let us know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Are there any shelter type places off in the for people who don't have power?
there are, right now, Summersville Fire Department Station 2
Yeah,
is a warming shelter.
But if not,
And also, Summersville Baptist. And then we have multiple on standby. And Commissioner Roberts can talk about any medical needs.
Yeah, we had worked with emergency room last night. We identified New Life Christian Academy, St. Luke's and Craigsville. And the Armory or the community center, which were there, that were on standby in case somebody had a medical emergency and you can plug in I think it's called a condenser or something for oxygen services, things like that. They'll open up as needed. I think the big threat we're gonna have is temperature supposed to drop, I think significantly.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the biggest need, I think, of the county at this point.
that was my issue with the dogs down there.
Right.
Even though they're inside that concrete building, it gets cold. Right.
And I think the big thing when the shelters open up, I don't know that they have food and water. Do they? To handle any sort of
Some
massive
do,
floods.
but I will, I'm in contact with all them before this evening.
just so folks know if they need to bring something to bring it with them, type of thing, or need transportation.
Something else I've seen a lot of, not to keep butting in, but had several people had asked, me just being out and about, like they seen like videos of like, even though it wasn't a tornado, but like tornado sirens, but they said they were nothing here.
Right.
There was no warning, just their phones going off. That might be something to look at too.
Right.
Like some kind of,
There is definitely grants out there for those. However, it's hard to get, especially in this region, because we haven't had really.
it's not a bad thing.
Yes. I know they were definitely going off yesterday in Canal County,
Yes,
which notified, a lot of people.
yeah.
But they also use those for chemicals and other
Anything.
emergencies, but yes,
I think one of the big things is just Nixle. I mean, we got a couple messages out on that yesterday.
yes.
And folks knowing they can subscribe to that system.
It really, up here, act like everybody's.
Channel off, yeah.
But you're good on that, you show up, you slip out and get down there and get busy.
Okay, very good. Thank
And
you.
you got, he has Drew, you got Drew's.
Contact info.
Yeah.
We don't have numbers, right? We haven't been contacted, yet, given numbers, like,
I'm saying.
what that rate and wage
Nine
is.
thirty.
So we didn't have numbers that we can discuss anything on it, and honestly, I thought you said to go back and we get some numbers before we on.
Oh,
We
okay.
just have to table it.
No, I can tell you why now, or I can keep the weapon she gave you, wanna know why?
That, we'll figure it out. We have to water obligations.
So what I would like to do now is have a motion to recess this emergency meeting so we can proceed with our current, until we have any other further information we might need to consider this morning.
Yes, sir.
So motion.
Motion is made. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. We are in recess of the emergency meeting. That being said, if you'd like to join us. Okay, good morning. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Nicholas County Commission. Today is Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, and it is now 9:08 a.m. Our emergency meeting does still stand in recess. That being said, do we have anyone here for public comment? Patty, would you check the list? Thank you.
No, not.
Okay, thank you.
People heard your first appointment.
Okay.
For people.
Before we do the motions, I do want to make a clarification for the record and would request the Chronicle place this in the Chronicle next week in this meeting report. It was stated that I own Midstate Properties, which did the land transfer with the commission. I do not. The reason for my recusal is because I'm in business partnerships with some of the members of Midstate Properties. So I want to make it very clear that I have no ownership in that transfer. That being said, do we have the motions?
Upon review and waive the reading of the minutes from March 20th, 2020.
Motions on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, motion does carry.
Upon a review of the exonerations as presented by the Nicholas County Assessor, move to approve accordingly.
Okay, that motion's on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. All those against, the motion does carry.
Upon review of the estate and judiciary matters as presented by the Nicholas County Clerk, move to approve accordingly unless otherwise noted.
That motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry.
Upon submission of budget revisions received from the elected officials and department heads, the commission will take appropriate action as deemed necessary.
That motion's on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry.
Upon review of the invoices as submitted by various departmental offices, the commission will take appropriate action as deemed necessary.
Now that motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. We do not have any terms of office expiring here this morning. And so we will move into our first agenda item of the estate of Theodore McClung Jr., file number 10669. Discussion concerning removal of administrators. That being said, we have multiple people here and I'm going to state your name. If you please raise your hand so we can identify you. What is it? I'm sorry, who?
Randy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the clerk's getting her. So in the meantime, Diana Hughes.
It's Diane.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let me write that in my handwriting there. Well, yeah, and then Chris Hughes, Spencer Hughes, and Daniel Deeds. Very good. Thank you all for coming in. That being said, I'm going to swear them in, then I'll have you begin, okay? Anyone that believes they have an intention of speaking here this morning, we only do this once, so if you think you might have something to add, if you please raise your right hands. And, oh, and can you state your name for the record?
Yeah, we'll try to get myself. All right, thank you.
You're the administrator, right? So you do have to be sworn in.
Right.
Yeah, but then if anybody else believes they have any intention of speaking this morning, you do have to raise your hand as well. You don't have to say anything, but just in case you do. But if everybody that believes will speak will raise your right hand and keep it up. Do you and each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the matter now in hearing, your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. And we'll have Ms. Brown briefly commission. Thank you.
All right, so we have an objection asking for the removal of the administratrix in the estate of Theodore Edward McClung. Probate was opened February 16th of this year by Diane Hughes, and this was after the 30-day waiting period from the date of the death of the descendant. He died without a will. At that time, Ms. Hughes presented a $25,000 bond and a list of the 3 heirs of the estate, which were Jen McClung, Stephanie McClung, and Michael McClung. Then on March the 1st, the 3 heirs presented an objection, which is attached to your copies there, to the estate, stating they wish Ms. Hughes to be removed and Jen McClung be appointed. The reason listed for removal were heirs were not notified of the decedent's passing. The administration Veterans Affairs had not been contacted about his passing, and funeral expenses at Waters Funeral Chapel had not been settled. Further, the heirs are concerned that there has been no proper communication between the administratrix and the heirs. There was a claim filed on March the 1st on behalf of Waters Funeral Chapel in the amount of $3,076.25. That claim was released on March the 18th, so it has been satisfied. An appraisement of the estate has not yet been filed with our office. However, it's still within the 90 days. The date of filing the appraisement would be up on May 16th, so she's still within the time frame to get that to us. As far as our office is concerned, as far as paperwork and how things are going, she hasn't done anything that we would deem inappropriate or out of line with the estate.
Ms. McClung, if you'd like to explain your objection here. You'll
If
read on the
there-
last page of the paper.
If there is truly nothing weird going on or out of context or whatever, myself and my siblings were very, very bothered and upset by the fact we found out on Facebook 2 weeks after he died. My sister had been trying to get a hold of him for 2 weeks. And I had questioned, why was he cremated? He was supposed to have a military burial buried at Mount Lookout beside of his sister. We had discussed that multiple times, and instead he was cremated. His ashes were already sent to stepchildren in Alabama. So when I contacted Greg Waters myself and asked him, why was he cremated? Greg's response to me was, we didn't have any other choice because the body was in such poor condition. We were told nothing. And I mean, we were obviously upset about that.
What was your relation to Mr. McClung?
We are all 3, 2 nieces and a nephew.
Okay.
He had no biological children of his own.
Okay. Do you have anything to add while we look over this?
Yeah, I actually wrote down, she wrote 5 things that she's accusing me of doing or not doing or saying. And I have my answers for each one,
Okay,
okay?
if you'd like to read them for the record.
Do you want me to read the reasons and then the answers? Okay. All right, here are the reasons that they are requesting me be removed. Number 1, they were not notified of his death. Here's my answer. Reason 1, it was explained to them multiple times that people were being notified prior to my appointment as Ed's administrator. However, I did notify them by providing addresses to the clerk's office for them, so they sent paperwork to them, and therefore I did notify them.
So we were just supposed to find out that he died through a piece of paper from the courthouse.
All notifications were done prior to my administration, and if you need more of that, Daniel is the one who was trying to take care of that.
Okay,
Okay, reason 2. The current administrator has not contacted the Veterans Affairs about his passing. Okay. My answer? They were informed repeatedly that Daniel and Max had informed the VA of its passing. I did not need to do that. Although during my work as Ed's administrator, I did meet with Mr. Spencer from the Veterans Affairs Office. I filed the paperwork for the request of funeral benefits, and now the estate has received and deposited those funds into the account. Number 3. They say I have not contacted Waters Funeral Home to settle the debt. I'd only been administrator 2 weeks. At the time of the letter, I was still assessing the debts and the credits for the accounts, waiting for one of his banks to approve my administrative paperwork in order to even speak to me or take care of his accounts. And this was all explained to the heirs. And an estate count wasn't able to be established yet because I was waiting for funds from all the banks. As soon as it was, I checked with the county clerk's office to make sure I could start paying his debts and paid off his funeral expenses first. The statements they made 4 and number 5, my answer and the questions kind of go together, so I lumped them as one. So for 4 and 5, they have not had contact with us aside from the phone conversations, which I don't know was the response repeatedly. And she says that I told several lies surrounding his death, which Greg Waters clarified for him. First, I hadn't been in an administrative position for 2 weeks. Jenny shows up at Ed's and we met him and we tried to explain the estate process to her. She had lots of questions, which we tried to answer. However, at that time, many of them I couldn't because it was too early in the probate process and there was still a lot to do. She also asked me a lot of questions about Ed's death at that time. And as I wasn't down there at the time, I could not answer for her. And as far as speaking with Stephanie and Michael, when they reached out on Facebook, I got phone numbers from them and called and spoke with each of them. And I let them know where I was in the paperwork process, early days yet. And assured them that I would keep them updated of my progress, and I answered any questions they asked me as best as I could. They seemed satisfied by what we talked about. Then a week later, all 3 of them turn up in the area. I didn't know. They had called me. After they had already sent this paperwork in here to you all. The day before I met them at the Ed's house, and this was the only second time that I'd spoken to Stephanie and Michael. I explained some more about Ed's estate business to them that day. I answered the questions as best as I could. They were all interrupting each other and we were all talking, so. Jen asked me again about Ed's death. And I told them that the death certificate, which we finally, we have, said COPD. She said she didn't want her feelings spared about that day. I mean, the man was dead. I mean, and she wanted all the details. So I wasn't down there. Chris explained how Ed was when the nurse came and got him and how he arrived on the scene, how Ed was then. And also everything else about that day, as I wasn't down there. I don't know how I could tell her a lie about what happened. I did speak to Mr. Waters when I paid off the funeral bill, and he mentioned that he had explained to Jen that Ed was cremated and that a quick decision had to be made because he couldn't embalm him. This decision was made prior to my appointment as administrator, so I had nothing to do with that decision. I mean, I helped Ed with his paperwork during his life. I helped him with his sister's estate. We've had keys to his house for 20 years. We've been helping him take him to the doctors. I know where all his paperwork is. I think I'm doing a good job and I'd like to stay as administrator.
What's your relation to Mr. McCormick?
I'm his cousin-in-law.
Do you have any reason to believe that you won't have that appraisement filed by May 16th?
No.
Okay.
I'm just waiting on a couple more things and then I'll be turning it. Maybe early.
Understood. And has she addressed your concerns?
Like I said, our biggest thing was that we knew nothing. And when she said that the paper states that they kept telling me, I don't know. I was just asking basic, simple things. And Greg Waters was able to answer them. So I don't know. It's crappy that we found out the way that we found out.
So I think you're speaking legality versus formality. As far as the legal, she followed all that. And
She did keep saying, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir. She kept saying that they were told to keep quiet. Well, keep quiet about what? Telling us that our uncle was gone. And she told me that the day I met with her and Chris. I have no problems with Dee and Chris. I have no problems with her doing this. But my siblings were very concerned about why it was like this huge secret that we couldn't find anything out about. And then when I was told he had to be cremated because there was no other choice, well, why was that not explained to us? And it was not.
When's the last time you'd had contact with your uncle prior to his death?
Probably 3 months. We had talked and he said, it's not a 911, but I miss your face. I do work full time, sometimes 16-hour shifts. And I'll be the first one to tell you, time slips away. Sometimes I wake up on Monday and wake back up and it's Sunday 2 weeks.
Is there anyone else would like to speak?
Not to, stir the pot in any way. This is just, my opinion. Ed kept in contact with the close relatives that, were to be in his life and, made it clear on, everything that he wanted, when the time came and, he wasn't here no more. And, everybody that was close to him, which he'd be my second cousin, dad's first. It's kind of your life-giving right. You want to be close to people that you care about, you love, and that you want to take care of them, help along there through their lives, whenever they're down on their luck. And he didn't get around very well, and as Mom stated, her dad, Jen's even taking him to appointments and, You know, we've all helped him through the years. But you know, even leading up to the final days, you know, you always wanna, nobody's promised tomorrow, you know, another minute. And you always make a point to be in somebody's life, you know, when you feel it's right.
So you guys aren't listed as heirs?
No,
Okay, so you received nothing. And I'm assuming it'll be a third disbursement, third. Do you have any concerns with the that there might be any concerns with the financials? Would be this way for me to ask this. So I'm good. I'll make a motion that we allow her to remain.
You good with it?
Anything from legal counsel?
No, I mean, I know there may be hurt feelings with what happened up to the time of appointment, but your role is to monitor the administration of the state from the time the administrator is appointed, and there has been no violation that I can see of any duty. So there would be a basis to remove.
Okay. So that being said, that motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. And of course, there's still the final appraisement process. If there's any issues there, you know, anybody's welcome to contest and come back and discuss that.
Absolutely. Have any issues there?
But
And she is under bond.
yes, hopefully we can keep everything moving forward and take care of business.
Just trying to communicate. It keeps you from being in here.
I've been trying to now, well, I've kept a journal, but I'm trying to keep them updated at least once a week.
Good.
I didn't this holiday weekend because I was at my mom's and she doesn't have service, so.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I was there from day one.
Mhm.
The caregiver called me. Told me it was gone. I went over there. And I was there when they took the body away. And me and another cousin both signed the papers for the cremation. I signed papers for Mr. Waters to order flag and grave marker from the VA. And for a while, nobody showed up except Chris and Dee. And some people thought I would be the executive. But talking with Dee Dee, she had experience. So I asked her, she said she could do it. And basically that's more or less how it started. And I've done research. And I learned, nobody else knew, but I learned that he had a grave plot in Alabama beside his late wife. And that's where his ashes was sent. And to his stepson to take care of that. And we did what, the only thing we could do. I mean, I couldn't do anything because I wasn't executive. I couldn't get any information or nothing. I had no idea where anybody to call except for his stepson and a real good friend that he has in Tennessee. And I notified them. And I never found any other phone numbers of anybody of any interest that he had talked to recently. And so at basically that's how Dee Dee got involved with it, because she had experience.
Okay.
And she had helped Ed when Ed's sister passed away. She helped Ed with taking care of that. And so I felt she was more qualified than myself or anybody else that I knew.
And that's good. That also addresses a little bit more with the VA situation. So appreciate that
I
information.
contacted the VA. You know, anything that I could do without being an executive, I did. And got her started on.
Well, very good. Well, thank you all for coming in. I hope it continues well for you. And again, if you have any other concerns later on, then we can always revisit it here again. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That being said,
Sorry, being rude.
no, you're fine. You're fine. You come in at the perfect time.
Y'all have.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sirs.
How you be? Good, you all right? Doing good, I said that. Hanging in there. That's all you need. All right.
Great. That being said, we're here now with Robin Bartlett, who is the Richwood Library. It doesn't have your title. What's your title?
Director.
Director. Thank you very much. Concerning a financial request to meet their grant match, I guess, for the year.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
I think I've explained the match to you before. You want me to explain it again?
Brief overview, just
Okay.
in case.
So we get, DIA grants and aid from the lottery sales, and it's 44,500. We have to meet that 100%. Half of it has to be either from county commission, city, and board of education. I currently get 20,000 from the board of education, 1,000 from the city, and whatever you guys throw out in each year. What I would really like to see is you to put us in the budget, for at least 5,000. And then you wouldn't have to see me every year because I would have enough to do my match.
Could you repeat those numbers again? How much is it from the city?
1,000.
And then the other
there's
funding
20,000
sources?
from Board of Education, but I understand that may raise, not this fiscal year, but next. fiscal.
And any other than the state money? The
No.
city, the Board of Education, that's it.
That's it.
And-
Yeah, 44,500 in grants and aid, 20,000 from the Board of Education, 1,000 from the city. That's all the money that I have to depend on each year to run the library.
Have you had the opportunity to ask the city to try and raise their contribution?
That's on my agenda to do. My board members, I spoke to my board members at our last meeting and explained to them that we are no longer financially able to take care of that building. I have done a lot of work. You guys have helped me a lot. But the library is no longer financially able to do that. So it's a city-owned building. So I basically told my board members that they're gonna have to do something. The city's either gonna have to take over the maintenance because I can't do it anymore with the funding that I have.
Understood. Absolutely understood.
And I'll brag, but that is the most beautiful building. In my opinion, well, it definitely is the most beautiful building in Ridgewood. I would even go even further to say it's one of the most beautiful buildings in Nicholas County. I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's very proud of my library. Beautiful.
It is a very nice building. We appreciate the ability to use that for voting poll too.
Oh, yes, you do.
Is there any discussion or further questions?
I do want to point out Craigsville was going to be here with me today. Craigsville's in much the same situation that I'm in. She doesn't get money from the city. She gets no money from the city.
Who owns that one?
The county commission, right? Because they don't have a city, so wouldn't it be?
That's a good question.
Some Board of Education property.
The
I know
one
it's
thing that I
right
would
about
want
the,
to kind of, I guess, advise is if we were to budget, and this is the kind of thing, and I definitely want to speak to the other two commissioners, we budget, then that's what you get. You need air conditioning, you need something like that, it's not outside the budget. And that's one thing we do try to stay to, I guess fluid with to a degree. But we want to be careful if we travel down that path. And I think, last year we kicked up $12 or $14,000 for air conditioners for a city-owned building, right?
I can't remember how much.
Yes, 16.
In that
Yeah.
range.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, we definitely want to be a partnership. But as you stated, it was a city-owned building. We did kick up $16,000 last year for a city-owned building, and they're kicking up $1,000. So that's kind of I guess I would highlight that as a concern and echo Commissioner Cole's comment about, see if they could step that up.
Now, anything like the money that you gave me for the air conditioner, I can't use that as my match.
Understood.
Because it's for a
Understood.
specific
Mhm.
project.
Right.
The way we look at it is it's library. Yes,
Right.
yeah, it's a location.
That is listed on the tax map at least as the Reynolds Library Trust. So I honestly don't. I might do a little checking to see who does own your building. Yeah.
But currently this year, to meet my match this year, so if we add all of that in, then I have to meet that 100%.
So I'm a little short on my end of what we brought in because it's starting to pick back up again, but during COVID, it just, everything kind of went by the wayside. So that would be why I would be asking for the 25 was to make that 100% match.
Wait, so you're requesting today 5,000 or 25,000?
2,500. Yeah. I had originally said 5, I think, and then I called
Okay.
her back because after
I wrote down 5. I just wanted.
that's, I mean, go ahead, do the 5.
Easy.
I'm good with that. And I honestly tried, just like I could have just said, you know, I need 5, but I did call her back and said, you know, this guy could have been said. To meet my bachelor's degree, because I try not to take money from you guys unless I.
Understood, yeah, yeah, definitely.
Is there
About
a
6
place
answers to the question.
we take money out of or something?
We still have to bid it out though, right?
Oh, he's on something else. Okay.
As long-
Verbal bids under 10,000, written bids are about 10,000.
Could you like copy and paste that too? That's great. What I might recommend, is I can't make the motion, but if the commission would consider $2,000, if the city would bump theirs to $1,500.
I can go to the council.
Well, while we're doing it, let's go ahead and do, if you want to do 2,000 to Richwood, then let's do 2,000 to Craigslist too. Well,
Do you know what kind of an amount they're looking at also? Pretty similar?
Right, but she does not get the $1,000, but her fundraising is a little better than mine, so.
And it's,
It's just hard to fundraise in Ridgewood.
understood. That's one of the things we'd like to address as well is maybe do some a paradigm shift and some out of the box thinking with regards to what libraries are. You know, I've done some stuff, some research on Oslo, Norway, and they're taking a different aspect to it and they're making that a more of a community center versus, you know, like folks are like, I don't want to read a book. You know, the library is much more than books nowadays. We definitely understand that. But you know, like shelter, I'm sure there's money's available for that, like Red Cross 911 type money if it's deemed a shelter, a safe spot for elderly during, you know, inclement weather like this. They're doing a podcast and stuff for kids to come in and use. And you can say, hey, you know, we've got a lot of foot traffic coming in. Traffic studies show this, and maybe more of a modernized approach that comes in at a low cost level. We looked at two. I spoke with the librarian at Craigsville. I'm dropping her name right now. Brooke. I spoke with Brooke a couple of times, just even some small podcasts. So it require like 2 laptops or 2 desktop computers, $400 or $500 a piece, a plexiglass booth for them to set in where the kids can actually do live streaming and do podcasts, maybe live in 15 minutes type thing. And one of the concerns she brought up was, it's a place for me to go. One of the things that she brought up is there are some restrictions or there are procedure steps you have to go through to switch over internet providers or change internet providers. And I think they're having some issues with Frontier and Craigsville, the bandwidth that they're receiving. So we'd have to actually hit that on a couple of different angles there. I believe we could do some modernization and start pulling some foot traffic in. And then, like I said, maybe if we could have some alternative labels for the library, like, you know, a shelter or anything.
I actually spoke with my board at our last meeting and asked them about doing the library as a welcome center, which I think would.
Yes, ma'am.
It'd be neat.
So we had talked, and we have talked about rebranding, they have talked about renaming the library.
Yeah.
Trying to just
Well,
refocus.
Right. Yeah, because it's a hard thing. You know, the internet's a good thing and in some aspects it's bad. And I think they pulled a lot of folks from book use. And I know you guys are definitely doing a lot of freedom, so I'm just trying to add some options.
I'll take any.
Absolutely.
feedback.
they'd have to set up.
I just
Well, I
wanted
just-
to stay there, that's.
Yes, understood.
Or
we can just use.
I guess subsidiary, or yeah, the other 50%. That's right.
I'll make a
Okay,
motion.
What are you gonna do?
yeah, I'll make a motion that you go back to the city and try to get more money.
Okay.
But I also make a motion, we go ahead and do 2,500 to her and 2,500 to Craigslist Article 7.
I truly appreciate you guys.
That motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion or questions? Again, that motion is to contribute $2,500 to both Richwood and Craigsville libraries. Out of Cole Severance. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And our next agenda item here is Kayla Farley from the Animal Shelter. And you had mentioned before this meeting that we don't have the information back from
Correct.
DHHR.
She can speak in high level theory, but I don't think a decision can be made based on the fact that we don't have numbers yet. And
Explain that a little bit. Is
So-
it,
so the DHHR has a program where the folks who receive assistance can go out and work in the community. I think it's at a minimum wage rate at like 30 hours a week. They can only be on that system for so long. At that point, they have to leave the system. And I think they have a follow-up approach they're wanting to do where they partner up, and on the initial, I was told that the DHHR would pay half their wages, we pay half their wages, it would be
Okay,
no
that'd be my
benefits, they would
question.
cover those. So it'd be half wage at a max of 32 hours a week. But we weren't able to solidify those numbers, so that's why,
so it's still roughly $1,200 a week or so, somewhere in that range,
30 times.
3 times 4.
Um,
No, 30 times, I'm sorry, 30 times $4,
Right.
or half.
yeah.
Yeah.
20.
Right.
So you're looking at,
About
about $500 a month.
We should have done this off camera.
It'd be 600,
Is minimum wage $8.25 then?
875.
It's That's $4, and you said how many a week?
It's about 30 hours a week.
Okay, 525, yeah, that's not that bad.
And the big push for that was on Monday and Tuesday. So they off shift, they have to provide 7-day a week coverage, even though we're only open 6. On that 7th day, they still have to go in and feed them water, and then they're on call for emergency response. So that when the way they off shift folks on Mondays and Tuesdays, the kennel assistant is off work since she covers Saturday and Sunday. So that would be a week that would be filled in.
Yeah.
But we'll have to get the numbers. I don't know that that's solid. That's just what we were communicating verbally.
What'd you get, Betty? What'd you get, Betty? Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Till we get some solid numbers.
We'll hold on here just a moment. We'll get Mr. Griffin in for the employee representative of the Wage and Benefit Review Board.
I just sent you the advisory opinion I received from the Ethics Commission. If you recall, you asked me to check regarding your updates with the mayors. And you can do.
So, and explain that just a little bit further.
Okay, if you
So-
recall, when Mayor Schaefer was here, you thought it was a good idea, but it's a good idea to meet periodically with the mayors. To update them on your projects and have them update you on their projects.
Correct.
The question was, could you redo it together? And there is an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission that allows you to do that, but the key to it is, and the language is that you cannot engage in discussions that involve deliberating towards a decision on a matter that requires official action. You can update each other, but you can't discuss what your decision on those projects or deliberations leading to a decision. On the project.
That's more of the general principle we have to go by. We can go for educational purposes together, but not
Yes,
discuss business per se.
and you all three convince it.
We don't have to call a meeting.
No.
Oh, wow.
It would just be pure presentation, answer questions from the mayor, him answer questions from us not questioning, talk to each other.
Correct.
Yep.
What I think I'd still like to do is potentially advertise it as just a work session.
Oh, there's no reason public shouldn't be notified.
Yeah, I mean, just to, so people, people might want to come see what all the,
Right. Anyway, you have that.
Okay.
Are you all dressed like Duck Dynasty?
You are.
Waist down?
One time,
I was this morning, but I'm not now. With that being said, Miss Duck Dynasty, Betty Griffin is here from the employee representative, as the employee representative of the Wage and Review Benefit Board, with a request of a potential pay raise for county employees.
Yes, so I have 2 figures for you. I have one where now this is only for 29 employees. This will not include DRC, 911, the deputies. And that's it, right? So we're talking about 29 employees for $300. It was for a year. It was gonna be $127,000. This included retirement. That was with the retirement figured in.
Is that including all benefits or just retirement?
That's the only, yeah.
Matching all.
With potential retirees, there's probably gonna be 3, at least for sure 2, by the end of the year. which would be a savings of 34,000. So you're actually looking at 93,000 for 29 people. For $200, it comes to 85,000 for the same amount of people, with retirement figured in. And then if you would take, again, the potential for 3 retirees, it would only be 55,000.
What was the first number on that? 85 even?
Yes. For sure, there's gonna be 2, me and Angie, that will come off of it in December. Okay, and then a potential for 1 more.
Well, I know Bobby's not allowed to leave, so let's not talk about him.
No, he ain't leaving.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not a, but, that did include that, and that, when on the retiree part, we figured on, they were chiefs, all 3 were chiefs. So we were figuring on, the 500 was figured in that, because it would automatically go to the next person. Anyway. So
Right,
if that.
right.
changes the
That doesn't, yeah.
So it appears that our, these 29 people hadn't had a raise since, 2018.
We've done one since then, because I've done one since I've.
Well, I went back and looked and I could not find anything. I found one when Altizer went out, it looked like 2018, it was done, and I think it was raised, right, and it was just like 100 or $100, yeah. So, you know, it just,
See, that's the figure I remember that we did,
well,
because we gave the deputies a raise, and we come back and gave for $100 raise for
well,
everybody.
Altizer, we think did that as he was going out.
You just want to give him credit.
No, I don't, but I.
But
know
I
that-
swear we gave another one too. but
Right.
That's okay.
I thought we did one right after we raised the deputies.
No, we have not.
You may have raised the deputies, but you didn't raise.
Yeah, the last one they got was theirs.
We raised, I know we raised deputies and dispatch, and I thought we did one for you too.
Yeah, I even got a call yesterday. He didn't even know I was doing this, and he said, you know, we hadn't got a raise, so, you know,
Who's he?
Tompkins, JJ. I was like, oh, how'd you know? I said, I'm going tomorrow to talk to him. He said, well, I knew we hadn't got one.
Hey,
but-
Courthouse travels fast.
Well, I had to talk to him.
Jumps over the spark every now and then.
So, I would just request, like I said, a raise for the other employees.
I want to ask Clerk Painter, what's your opinion on these figures concerning our current financial standing? As compared to what the liabilities we're taking on with our budget, how about that?
Well, they haven't outraised.
Right. But how does it hone up with our budget?
Are you comfortable with it?
Yeah,
When we talked the other day, we said
okay,
there was
that's what I'm
Okay,
getting.
that's
no
what
reason to anticipate any downward trend in what we're bringing in, right, in revenue, right?
All right, I'll make a motion. Can we make a motion?
Oh, yeah.
I'll make a motion. We go with the $300. That's monthly.
Yes.
As presented by Ms. Griffin. So I'll make that motion.
That motion,
29 employees.
okay, not including DRC deputies or 911.
This is thanks.
Right.
It has-
Okay, and that being said, is there any discussion? You can add a few.
Okay. And now can we have it started now? Or do we have to wait?
How about at 10 o'clock?
Yeah, okay.
I was gonna say 9:55. Well, ain't. Everybody moving around here.
That's the backdated.
Yeah,
Backdated.
no, you can't. We're a forward thinking commission, not a backward thinking.
What do you think an appropriate timeline is?
I mean, is it good to just jump in the pay cycle, or is it better to wait till July 1 or? I asked the county clerk. I'm glad the clerk's not here
What if
today.
they don't push?
Mind me.
Yeah.
Gotta be careful, she'll have you on the water and.
Oh, I know. I promise not to come back.
All right, order in the court.
He wants to stop me.
Yeah, that's right. You are making Gary look good now. Come on. But anyway, so 127 would float us through the end of the year before at least the 2 retirements of the 2 directors, which would drop us down closer to below 100. Should we do this? How much more room do we have this upcoming budget? I mean, a good amount? Are we squeezing it tight? Well, yeah, right. I don't have my budget book with me. Any further discussion? Okay,
Already know where to.
please share. That being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, the motion does indeed carry. So
On what date?
we need,
May 1st.
we should have done that before the motion. Is May 1st too soon? Okay, can you propose an amendment to your past motion? That would be the starting date of May 1st.
On the previous motion, add to it that we start on May 1st.
Okay, is there any further discussion or questions? Is that clear enough for? In addition, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry again. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That being said, we are at a break point. We do need to get some people on by Zoom for our next appointment, so we will recess.
There were no injuries yesterday reported. were there?
2 in Fayette County, but none in Natchez.
The Bright side,
Good morning again. We're here now with Amanda Smar, who is the Project Assistant and GIS Coordinator of Region 4 Planning and Development Council, and others. And what I'll do is I'll have you just introduce yourselves, if you don't mind. We'll begin with John Tuggle of Region 4, also here in person. And if everyone would introduce themselves on Zoom. We'll start with Chris.
Good morning, Chris Morris with CityNet.
Good morning. Now, Melissa,
Melissa O'Brien with CityNet.
Amanda.
Hi, good morning. Amanda Smar, Region 4.
Very good. And then Mr. Stump.
John Stump, Steptoe Johnson, counsel to the county commission.
Very good. Thank you all for joining us here this morning. And we're here to discuss a potential Nicholas County Reconnect project, which of course is related to broadband initiatives. We had a meeting last week and looked for a little bit more information if we could hear a little bit of a report on what all's going there. And I do see we have joining by Zoom, we do have Christopher Buford. Chris is with New River Engineering. And Chris, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Well, I'm having some issues with the internet down here. I don't know if we have a cell phone tower down or something, but I can barely hear you guys talking.
Okay, it's a little choppy, but I think we can hear you too. Okay. And so,
Okay, yeah, we got hit with the storm and knocked all our power out. Our servers are down and everything. So
we absolutely understand that.
Fiber's out and servers are down, right?
That's right. Who would be best to begin with?
I can start.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Since I'm here in front of you, we've been going back and forth with all the team. And you did receive some information as far as projection, cost estimates for the total project and a couple of variations that East and West. And then also some USDA and market loan type information to give you some ideas about the payments. Those are not exact, but those are what they are based on what we have right now. Gives you a really good idea on how to look at it. today we need to discuss, you know, a pathway forward one way or another, how the commission would like to proceed with that. I'm gonna turn it over here to John Stump as far as, explaining the mechanism for actually getting the application in a way that USDA can accept it and hopefully, you know, it'd be a win. But we're kind of stuck on what, we have to move forward as far as who can apply. After talking to USDA's representative, Richard Jenkins, the entity that has to apply for it needs to be an established entity with a track record of some financials, and that it needs to be tied to the commission. So in order to have time to move forward with that, it looks like that's probably going to be the building commission. But John, if you would take it from there and explain our options.
Morning. Well, as we discussed on the last call, I believe there's a couple of ways to proceed here. The mechanism that is the cleanest, and there is some precedent for, would be or is to do a deal through your building commission. So how that would work is the building commission would issue bonds, in other words, borrow money from the USDA. It would then lease the system to the county, who would enter into a management agreement with CityNet, and then the county would make lease payments back to the building commission that equal the debt service on the bonds. We're doing something very similar in Putnam County right now. Actually, not with USDA, but it'll be a public financing. But that's the approach that is the cleanest. The issue really becomes in that scenario, what revenues the county pledges to the building commission and thus to USDA to repay the bonds. So if the idea here is that the system is going to cash flow on its own, and the county commission is not going to subsidize the system through through general revenues or some other source, then the pledge to make lease payments would be limited to solely the revenues from the fiber system, or some portion of those revenues. So that's the mechanism structure that is, as I said, I believe the cleanest for the county commission.
And this is probably a general question for everyone, probably namely CityNet. What kind of reassurance can the commission get on the plausibility and likelihood that revenues can be raised from the services themselves to cover this debt, so that we don't find ourselves making up shortfalls?
I can probably start off with that, and that'd probably be more after I talk. It would probably be a John Stump thing too. First of all, I apologize. I was planning on being there this morning and had to deal with some storm related issues, so I'm sorry I'm not there in person. So, you know, in other areas, other counties where we've done similar projects, you know, we do an analysis of the revenue opportunity to make sure that there's ample cash flow to cover that debt service. And then we execute an agreement with our partner, which would be, I don't know, John, if that would be the county commissioner or would that be the building commission, to pledge the revenue amount or the debt service amount to pay this back. As far as assurances go, you know, I'm not sure what John, as your counsel, would want to do to build in something into the agreement to protect you. That would, you know, that's something that John would want to look at, and we'd certainly be able to entertain. But I don't think that's a big issue. Johnny, do you agree or?
Well, I think there's a couple of questions. Is first, will USDA accept a lease revenue bond that's secured solely from the revenues of the system, without any pledge of other obligations of the county or other revenues, funds of the county commission? I'm guessing the answer to that is yes, because they make loans to reconnects all over the country. And I'm certain, I shouldn't say I'm certain, I think it's 99% likelihood that they've dealt with some very similar issue in other states where they're taking a loan solely on broadband revenues. So that's the first question we would need to dig into. Again, I think the answer is going to be that's fine. And then the second question is, I assume the Reconnect application has a feasibility analysis requirement, certainly a cash flow requirement. So we really need to have some conversations with USDA to see what they'll accept.
Okay.
I mean, my guess is, and I haven't spoken, commissioners, I haven't spoken to you all independently about this, is my guess is the county commission would very much prefer that general revenues of the county not be pledged to this financing.
That's my position.
The building commission is very familiar with this type of financing. They were doing although it's a deed of trust rather than a bond with the USDA with New River. So, and we got right up to closing on that, and New River backed out. But the building commission is familiar with this, so it's not going to be new to them.
How recent was that?
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, I was gonna say about
5 to 7 years ago.
Now, Greg, we'll get this question from them. What opens up to their liability?
No.
Okay, and we can make that.
Yeah, Greg's right. They have no liability, and I did a financing with you all, Greg. I can't remember when exactly it was, but we did close 2 years ago. Yes. So the building commission is familiar with it, and the building commission does have no liability. Now, USDA would take I assume, and I would think so, they would have a pledge of the revenues, but they would also have or pledge of the lease between the county and the building commission. And that lease would be, the payments on that lease would be limited to the revenues from the system. Now, the USDA would take a lien on the system, I believe. So they would have a deed of trust on the system. So if payments weren't made, they could foreclose on the fiber system.
Yeah, and that's what they use for the New River. The collateral is the revenue stream from the college to satisfy the debt. So.
That's been our experience, is that the collateral would be both the revenue and then the assets that were either purchased or constructed with the project funding.
So do we need to go to the building commission first? Do we need to make a decision today, what we want, what avenue we want, and then go to them?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Okay.
I think we should simultaneously, given the time constraints you're under, start discussions with USDA about what they're going to be willing to accept, because I suspect the building commission is going to want to know to some extent what the security is.
And then amendment concerning the application itself, deciding which avenue we take today helps you all with the timeline of getting that in during the portal, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I think.
And
good to go.
Chris had, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
Well, Chris had raised a question about who would sign the operation or the management agreement, and that would be the county commission. Chris, is the way I would see that working.
There's three of us. Bring me an off stick up here.
The other thing that was a little bit reducing last time is we were trying to decide whether to go to 50-50 or the 100% grant. In talking to Richard, as far as advantage on competition across the country. At this time, there's not really advantage with any of them. Because number one, it looks in his, the way it looks to him, a lot of these bigger outfits are gonna borrow the money, period. They're not gonna try to get grant because they can do that, and have a scenario where they can probably use taxes and all that stuff and get, and then be in just as good a shape as if they try to get grant. So, the grant program, he feels like will be, applied for heavily, and so will the 100% grant, the 100% loan will be applied for a good bit. The 100% grant will be applied for a good bit, and so will the 50/50. So he indicated it really wasn't an advantage one way or another.
Now, Richard Jenkins, is he the one that had originally made a point that Nicholas County might be a good candidate for the 100% with a 20% match?
Correct.
And Chris, you were gonna look into some things. Did you get us any other information?
Yeah, I got a couple thoughts I wanted to share with you. So, I agree with everything that John said, John Tuggle. After, and I thought it was great that we were able to get John and Amanda and John Stump on the phone with Richard during the end of your meeting last week. That was beneficial, I think, to all of us. As I've thought about it since then, I think that the challenge that we have, I had Todd, our CFO, evaluate the project to see if the straight up loan works at all. And he said no. He said borrowing the full amount to do the full county and at the 2% it just doesn't cash flow. So we can eliminate that as one of the options. So now you're just looking at whether you do the 50/50 loan grant combo or you do what's called the 100% match or grant with a 25% match. And the hurdle that I see for the 100% grant versus the loan combo is getting a loan from a private bank for the match. For the loan grant combo, the USDA does the loan, and they're certainly comfortable with that, and they've done it. They do it across the country. And so I don't think, obviously that's part of what they evaluate as they evaluate and approve projects, is they look at all the models, at the projections, at our history and our expertise at running a network, and they take that onto account and say, okay, it's kind of a one-stop shop. You go there, you apply, they approve everything, the loan's done, the grant's done, all in one stop. I think if we go the other route, the hurdle, which I don't think is insurmountable, is if there's a 25% match on a $25 million loan, we got to go borrow $6 million of that 25 million, basically, in round figures. And it's been my experience, at least, that can be a challenge with commercial banks in West Virginia when they're just looking at the assets and the revenue associated with the project. That has been a hurdle for us. And one of the things that we've done to overcome that hurdle in the past is to use the loan guarantee program through the state, and banks have liked that. And that tool has allowed us to move forward with a couple projects. The challenge with that is right now there's about $10,000 left in that fund, which originally had $50 million, which I think is evidence that it works. There are talks of the state replenishing that fund in May at a special session, but you know how that works just as well as I do. Speculative. So I think the most simple path forward is to put together a project that the county commission is comfortable with, that we think works, that passes the smell test with John Stump, and submit it into the 50/50 loan grant combo, and at the terms that we like. And and if Richard Jenkins and others at USDA have something to push back on, then we would work through those with you to make sure that we do so in a manner that that's acceptable to them, that works for both of us as parties. If you decide that you'd rather go the other route, then we would have to try to figure out what bank to use and start having those conversations for the loan portion of the which would be the match. And then that gets us to the question of, do you want to do, is it possible to do the whole county? Should we go with a portion of the county? I think if we were going to go the 100% grant, 25% match, we would probably recommend to the county commission that we would downsize the project a little bit, just because I don't know how likely it would be, based on our history of getting a $5 or $6 million loan solely tied to the collateral that's funded through the project and the revenue stream from a traditional bank. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
And Chris,
No,
I'm
that's
gonna add
good.
that timing with a traditional bank could be a problem too. Amanda needs to get to work very quickly on this application, and traditional banks aren't as familiar with broadband loans, so that it could be very time consuming and cumbersome with a traditional bank to get them to feel comfortable to proceed.
What do you need from us today? The decision?
A decision on, whether 50-50 or the other. I mean, that you're okay.
Chris, did you run by your CFO how it looked on the 50-50 loan? Is it going to cash flow easily?
Yes, he said either of those programs that we could make work, either the 50-50 loan grant combo or assuming a bank would do the loan on the loan grant, or the 100% loan, which I can't have a hard time saying that because it's not, or the 100% grant, I mean, either one of those would cash flow, and there's not a huge difference.
Concerning that cash flow, you'd mentioned that you could do analysis and make sure that all the debt service was covered. I mean, if there's an excess of that, how is that money handled?
So typically, and John can also, John Stump can also kind of detail this because he's worked on a couple other projects with us. There's in the O&M agreement, we usually have a revenue waterfall that pledges. We would negotiate with you on how that revenue is used. And typically the first thing that comes out is you got to cover the debt service. Not typically, in every instance, that's what comes out first is paying back the debt service. And then typically it's used, the revenue is used for costs associated with actually operating and maintaining the network, providing service to the customers. And then depending on, project specifics and uniqueness of the project, we would just work with you to come up with a kind of a revenue waterfall from there on how to use those revenues, assuming there's more money left over after each of those items.
Hold on one second. Chris Buford's asking if I can get him by phone. I'm gonna try in here.
No, I'm good. I'm good. We got
Okay.
it. Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
They ran me an extension cord over here and was able to get a mobile hotspot to the laptop. So
All right. You sound good. That's good.
we've got 4 generators running in the office trying to get our server up and running.
And Commissioner, I'd be happy to like even send you guys an example of a revenue waterfall that we've done with other counties, just so you can see what it has looked like in other instances.
That's good.
Because I mean, I'm not even necessarily saying, oh, well, let's just make money for the county or something like that. I'm not taking that off the table, but even if it'd pay the debt service down quicker or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this is John. I'll agree with everything that Chris and Melissa have said regarding commercial banks. Without the loan guarantee, I think it's going to be very difficult to get a commercial bank to buy into this, particularly in the time frame you have available. It's difficult to put a revenue model together. I mean, obviously CityNet can do that, but for the banks, it's tough to do a credit analysis. I'll also say that as far as the waterfall goes, USDA may require a reserve account or a working capital reserve. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So that may be something you would be funding along the way as well.
Yeah, and we are open to, to obviously evaluating whatever's required by the USDA. I mean, we can't agree to include things in the revenue. I mean, we can include them in a revenue waterfall, but if there's not enough revenue to reach them, eventually, it either the project works or it doesn't. But certainly, I think that would be a reasonable thing to include and to talk about. But we try to be responsive and willing to structure those however the county wants, really. I mean,
So a portion or all that'll come from the, I guess, a piggybacking on the customer's bills.
so it would generally just be, okay, so let's say that the project's funded. With another benefit of the 50-50 loan grant combo is there's only interest only during the construction, which helps us, or helps the project. And then once the network's complete and operational, we obviously would be providing service to the customers and collect, just like it would be if it was our customer, we'd collect the revenue from each customer. And then we would use that revenue, that money that comes in from each bill, in a manner that is reflective of the what revenue waterfall that we negotiate with you. So let's say that for every bill, let's say that the bills are $75 a month, and it takes $45 a month of that to pay back the debt service. We would immediately take money out of every bill, and we would use that towards the debt service payment. And then you would look at the next step of the revenue waterfall, and we would take that revenue and we would disperse it to however the revenue waterfall dictates.
Well, when I understand your example, but then, I mean, is there a built-in amount or percentage that would be for upkeep, maintenance? We had 200 trees fall in the county the last 24 hours. So how would that be? I know that's kind of your responsibility, but how would that be covered?
That's, I'd have to go back and look at our agreements. It certainly isn't responsibility of the county commission.
Sure.
So I'd have to, I mean, I don't want to assume. Let me look.
Okay.
I don't want to tell you wrong.
Okay.
Unless John, you remember from looking at those whenever you've worked on them in the past. I don't know if you recall, but I think we're responsible for operating and maintaining the network.
Sure.
Right. I mean, I think, Chris, they're going to give you a chainsaw and send you down from Bridgeport and put you to work.
You want to come over and get practice?
Yeah. A chainsaw and a roll of black electrical tape to put it back together.
That's right.
Where I was going with that original thought was, I ran some numbers here. 12,350, 20 years, 2%. You're looking at about $63,000 a month. If your target audience is about 1,550 folks, you're looking at $42 a month cost per user. What I didn't want to do, I guess my attempt was to be a good community steward and ensure that internet is not so expensive that they can't afford it to compensate for this revenue.
So our rates are $75 a month for gig service. That's 1,000 meg up and down. I haven't done an analysis lately of the rates and other providers provide, but generally when we meet with the state broadband office with all the other providers, we are generally, I think, the most reasonable rates in the state.
Absolutely. I didn't want to, I guess, build in a surplus that would make it less affordable for your average home.
No, I would agree with you. We wouldn't want to structure it.
How many years did you do that on?
20 years. 12,350 at 20 years, 2% is 62,476.59.
Is that what we have to do it for? Is 20 years?
I'm just trying to figure out some number to start from.
The only thing I would point out is the 2% that I mentioned this the other day, and it was partially accurate. So I apologize. It was only partially accurate. The 2% interest is only on the 100% loan. So the interest rate will be higher on the loan grant.
He sent you, there's a.
It's still better.
Yeah, I'll just try to find some number to go with.
I know I said that and I just wanted to correct myself.
Yeah, you're good. So if we run forward, just go with that. You're looking at 74,000. It's not a whole lot more.
Right.
Per month. Raises it probably about $50 per user. But you said, I think it's 2,700 customers, 60% target rate would end up being about 1,550. Wasn't that right, Chris Buford?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And this is the typical model that we've seen with the other products.
Absolutely. Just trying to hold it affordable there. So typically this type of financial commitment from your company wouldn't dictate the price per customer. Which you have a model and that model.
That's correct. No, our price is what our price is. When we're we're not gonna change our price from county to county at
Okay.
all. Our price is what our price is, and and part of that is too, and we try to do that also with our commercial customers. I mean, I don't want to have a company that says, well, we get gig internet for this, and another company say we get gig internet for less, and then all of a sudden our other customers mad at us. So
Right.
our prices are
Awesome.
same across the board.
Much appreciated too.
Was that 20 years that he
That's pretty
estimated off
close.
of?
I
Pretty
think,
close to probably what they'd
I think,
expect.
Todd used like 19 or something, then he when he was dealing with me.
And he used that because of the, that's the expected, that's what the federal government recognizes as the asset life.
Mm.
He was using whatever USDA. Probably.
Yeah, the, generally the fiber, they say 20 years. I mean, we know that it lasts a lot longer than that. But they also take into account that the electronics, that light that fiber, decrease the life of the total assets of the project.
Any other considerations that we've had with other projects, that waterfall two was pretty much designated towards the system in case there was some subdivision that's added somewhere and they need internet, you can put it in there with that money and help out, and also use that for leverage for additional grants and other stuff.
That'd be awesome.
Now, at the end of the 20-year cycle, we're probably gonna have to rebuild internet, but if it's still good for another 10 years or something like that, the revenue that was paying the lease payment, the debt service, what are those funds handled with after that? I mean, does it go directly to the county? Does it go?
So typically, that's something that we would negotiate with you.
Would you tell us what are being come in?
If we,
He's up.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I apologize.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize. I was just saying that, that is all, something that we can negotiate with you. Part of the thing a big part of our conversation is what does the county want to do with the network at the end of the project?
Sure.
And if the county wants to own the network, and we're doing a project right now with a county that has gotten grant funding, and it's an open access network that will always be owned by this public entity. And it's an open access network. That's different than what we're talking about, but that is a possibility. Then at that point, the county's responsible, or the building commissioner or whomever, for upgrading the network, for replacing the electronics and the equipment to light the network. If the county eventually wants to divest itself of that network, we always want to make sure that we have the opportunity to acquire that network. And the reason that's important to us is because if there are future projects that you identify that you want us to build off that network, we have to make sure that we always have the ability to reach those customers. We don't want to have stranded fiber that we build off a network that then you later sell to Frontier or some other company, and then we can't actually use those assets. So that's something that we want to make sure that we have the ability to acquire that if we're going to build off of the network.
Are we able of making that commitment, or once that expansion would come along, would we have to bid that out again?
That's John's question.
Okay. Okay.
John, did you hear that question?
I heard part of the question. I didn't hear your response, John.
I was asking John stuff if he heard the question about.
Oh, okay.
The end of the.
I did not hear the question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So, like sitting there, and I have no issue with this. I'm just checking, in a legality standpoint, if we agree to have CityNet, it basically has like the sole opportunity to assume these assets, for the interest of expanding elsewhere. Is that acceptable, or are we going to have to bid out and go through this whole process again to do those expansions?
Well, so there's kind of two issues there. The first issue is, let's say you've built the network, CityNet's operating and maintaining it. An opportunity comes along that CityNet sees to extend the network, extend off of the network, and build its own assets. CityNet essentially becomes a customer of the network at that point, okay? Because they're using the network to connect those customers. So that's one issue, and I do not believe you would need to bid that out. They're just a customer, basically, extending service and picking up a certain number of customers. and you would negotiate, what they pay for that right. Or you could negotiate, I mean, it's a negotiation in the agreement where CityNet has the right to do that, on the consent of the commission or something along those lines. The second question is at the end of the term, end of the 20 years, if CityNet purchases it, do you have to auction it? The answer to that question is yes, under current state law. However, in other transactions, the way we've made it work is the commission transfers the system to the Economic Development Authority, which then transfers the system to CityNet. Because you can transfer assets to the Economic Development Authority, which in your case is New River Gorge, and they're familiar with the structure, and then that would then New River Gorge would transfer to CityNet the assets pursuant to the management agreement.
And that would be after the debt service is paid off.
Yes, sir. Well, in at least one other transaction, CityNet has can approach you about purchasing it earlier, but they would have to pay off all the debt on the system. So
To get that deed of trust basically released.
Yes, sir.
Like a property.
That's right. Yep. Because USDA and all their other programs has no prepayment penalty. I assume that's the case in Reconnect. I believe it is. So, right. So you could, if you wanted to get out of the business completely, and just not have to deal with it, and CityNet was willing to pay off the bonds, then you could do that.
Good.
And one of the counties, and another had similar questions, and one of the things that we built into the agreement was that the project is done, which means that the grants are expended, the construction is complete, the grants are closed out, and that every customer in the service area that wants service has service. That way you can make sure that you're actually getting service to all the customers that want it before you divest yourself of that network.
One other thing that for the commission's benefit is you have the advantage here of, as you can tell, we've done this drill before, and the prior deals have taken a good bit of time because we were starting from scratch. And while state law is very clear that the county commission can own and operate a broadband service, a fiber system, that's about all it says in the state code. It's very minimal as far as the guidance state code provides. But we have been through this, and the whole process will be a lot less painful. But one question that I have, Chris, and is, will you all be doing the pole attachment agreements?
I would think yes. Just based on our experience, that seems to be what the other counties and the other county commissions have wanted us to do. And I think it works well because we have a process in place and because the poll owners are comfortable with it. Is that your thought too, based on your experience with the other counties, John? Or
oh yes,
okay.
yes, please. For the commissioners, one of the biggest issues we have is pole attachments, and just the right to attach to utility poles, and obtaining the pole attachment agreements, because the power company and Frontier, et cetera, they're getting these requests from across the state, indeed across their multi-state service area. Because not everyone, but lots of these projects out there. So having CityNet get the pole attachment agreements is much more efficient than trying to do it through the county commission.
Now that has, of course, not been done yet.
Yeah, it has not.
Right. No, it hasn't. Can't be done until the design's done.
I'm sorry.
There's a significant cost to that to build a project.
So that'll be included in this funding. So it won't be a liability to the commission there either. Because we actually have done that. We're familiar somewhat with the pole attachment agreement with the broadband project that the governor selected up on Hinkle Mountain above Richwood.
And for Chris Buford, perfect. I'll get that right when it says. For Chris Burford, you said that, you're looking at 2,570 targeted houses. How many houses-ish do we have in Nicholas County that still will not have internet access? I mean, 1,000, 1,500, 3,000, less than 500?
For the entire county, the one that you're looking at, hold on, let me pull it up on the PDF here.
So I just want to be very careful that we start advertising out that we're going to provide broadband for the entire county, that it is literally for the entire county, or we make some sort of sub-statements under that.
Yeah, you had like the 2,700 and some targeted addresses, and we're saying a 60% take rate would give you 1,550 customers. That was reaching all the unserved areas in Nicholas County, if I'm not mistaken. Let me open up that last map.
So I know that there had been a slight side conversation that any, I'm gonna, I live in a holler, so I'm gonna say, anything up a holler, you've got one or two houses up there, that would be maybe something later on that CityNet would build out to. And I wanted to try and quantify those number of houses.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it looks like, I'm looking at his map. Looks like they were running fiber pretty much. I'm sure there may be a few outliers here or there, but for the most part, it was attaching to everything that needed it. The areas that you're not running fiber to is already served.
And if it was a significant number, the follow-up question to that was going to be to CityNet, in 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 years, how fast could we get those areas addressed? I mean, if we want internet equality for everybody, what can we look at for that time frame?
So, I very much view that as Melissa and my job, is to work with you. If there are areas that aren't reached through a project, if there are areas like Chris just mentioned that maybe the maps say they're served, and because you live there, that they're not.
Right.
Then it's our job to find ways to reach those people, and then we would work with you to identify if there's if it's just a couple households and it's not far, then we would just do it. But if it's something that would cost a lot of money and it's a major project, we would look for funding opportunities. We would look for ways to reach them and to do what we would normally do, which is that we would work to work with, usually Amanda is extremely helpful, and John, to apply and go after funding to make those projects a reality. As far as timing goes, I will be honest with you, because the federal government has thrown so much money at broadband, there is construction everywhere. There's issues with supply chain issues. There's trying to hire people. We have done a pretty good job at anticipating those. And another one of our jobs is to kind of make sure that we kind of keep things in the pipeline, but don't inundate our crews. We have hired our own construction crews. We have our own engineering internally. So we do a lot of work within CityNet. All that being said, a lot of that would be determined by what the funding source is and what the requirements are and how the program works. Obviously, we understand that your constituents don't want internet yesterday. They don't want it tomorrow. They want it today or yesterday. And so, we would work to make sure that we get as quickly as possible. That all being said is, depending on, a lot of it depends on BEAD. If the state's able to go secure the approval for their $1.2 billion plan, that could potentially impact all the projects across the state and the timing of how they're impacted. So we will work with you to make sure that they're done as quickly as possible, but most importantly, that they're done well. And then we'll work with you to communicate with your constituents, with our customers. I think a big problem that people have is a lack of communication. And if someone said, "Oh, we heard there's a broadband project," and they think they're getting internet next year, and they don't hear anything for 3 or 4 years, they're going to be irate. But if we are able to at least come and have a town hall meeting or come and update people in whatever fashion you think makes sense. We can also help guide those expectations and make sure that, that they're reasonable and attainable.
I guess
And
my vision
Commissioners-
is when we go with a project this large and we're looking to borrow $12.5 million and invest $25 million into the county, you know, via your organization, what we want to do is make sure that we're all encompassing. I can see if we have small pockets of folks, but we should not have to go back to the table for any sort of large expenditures to seek assistance or financial aid in any other aspect. That's what I'm going to make sure is that when we say all, we are getting all, other than maybe a few outliers. We
Hey,
should not
Gary,
go back to the
I
table
was-
and redraft anything.
Hey, Gary, I went back and I was adding it up on his map. Yeah, there's 2170 targeted addresses, 1550 basically is what we're looking at trying to connect to. There's 525 what they're considering unserviceable addresses. These would be.
Say that
like
number again.
extreme- 525 based on the information that we were able to pull off GIS. 525 unserviceable addresses. These are like extreme outliers.
And that's fine.
That's
I mean,
where the
we can
fiber
quantify
would
that.
not be going.
All right.
And there was 3,900 other addresses along the route, which are people that are already served.
Right.
Now, they could also jump on this system if they choose, but right now they are served.
Right. And that's the big concern. Like I said, if we do it and we go into a large project like this in agreement that we are addressing as many as we can up to that 525 that are deemed unserviceable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
This question's for Chris Buford. The attachments that we received, there's an east project area and a west to east project area. Why is there a separation and breaking this down into two projects?
We had worked with Eric and he was trying to come up with a couple of different options. One was the full county option, which was the, what was it, 25 million. And then he looked at, they've got fiber in Clay, they've got fiber in Webster. So they looked at coming through and connecting from Clay all the way to Webster. That would be the east to west portion. And then if you just did the eastern portion of the county, coming from Webster coming over. So that was just to give you a couple different price options to look at.
But essentially, we're applying for both.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that was for you guys to decide. Do you want to go after the entire county, or do you want, or was you want to look at a couple of smaller projects and do like one project and another and kind of like do these in phases?
Right. Ask for a 50%.
Do you have an opinion on that?
Commissioners, Eric apologizes he couldn't be here with us today. He had a family obligation, but he wanted to give you three options so you could determine your comfort level financially. So there was the entire county option, the east only option, or the west to east option. So and those are price cost estimates attached to each of those, so you could determine which you are comfortable with.
Okay.
So a lot of that revolved around if you went for the 100% loan and then, you know, you couldn't get a bank to give you enough match.
Yes, sir.
That was the reason.
Scale
for us for that. So.
Okay.
Go back and build plans.
That's all the questions that I have.
Definitely appreciate everybody's time.
So the two things for us to move forward on an app is 50/50 and the building commission. And then we will work with CityNet and USDA and John Stump to figure out how we put that together. Is that correct, John? Is that all we need to know?
Yes, sir.
What I would recommend for a motion would be to consider the 50/50 proposal of how to go about applying for this project, and with an immediate referral to the building commission to begin discussions with them.
So moved.
That motion's on the floor. Is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Does that all make sense to you? Okay. That being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry, and we appreciate everyone's time here this morning.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Let us know what we need to do next.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And what we'll do is we'll take a quick recess here to get to our next Zoom meeting. Yeah, but. Okay, we're here now, discussing, for discussion concerning Senate Bill 737, which was the Emergency Medical Services Act, West Virginia Code 16-4C-25. This is the Emergency Medical Services Salary Enhancement Fund. We are joined by Mr. Joseph Ratliff, and if you could state your agency, please.
Yes, sir. I'm Director of the Office of Emergency Medical Services.
Okay, very good. We appreciate you taking time to meet with us here this morning. If you wouldn't mind even just to kind of give, I know you've been doing this a few times, if you wouldn't mind to even just give us a rough overview of what the project is, and then we can get in discussion how it applies to Nicholas County.
Sure. So there was a 10 million allotment that legislation passed, with 9 million going towards salary enhancement funds for EMS providers and 1 million going towards for mental health services, as far as developing a regional, and that's an EMS region. So the different counties that are involved with your EMS region there, to build a system that allows for in a critical stress debriefing incident. So if there's a bad accident and those providers need to be debriefed, this team can respond and debrief them.
Okay.
So for the $9 million, the way it's set up, and I don't know if you all have it in front of you, but it's 64 CSR 116. Those are the rules on this. It's basically set up that the money has to flow from my office to the county commission, from the county commission to the agencies that are on your 911 system. So any agency in your county that is on the 911 rotation that gets toned out for 911 calls, they are eligible for this money. And the way it works is, as you talk to your 911 director, they can tell you what percentage of 911 calls are ran. So we're just going to say agency A and agency B are in your county. If agency A runs 60%, agency B runs 40%, and agency A gets 60% of money, agency B gets 40% of money.
Now, is that based on like a 3-year historical record, or the
sir, it's based
calendar
on
year?
It's based on a calendar year of 22 to 23.
Calendar or fiscal?
Calendar. We did January to December.
And you said that was 22 to 23?
Yes, sir. Basically January of 22 to December of 22, but I always say 22 to 23. It's a full year for me.
Sure.
So from there, then it comes to the county commission. Like, you all have decisions from there to make. You can hand it all out at one time, and the agencies have to report back to you the name of the provider, the WV number, and how much they got. You can do it quarterly, you can do it monthly, you can do it as long as it's spent by December of 24. However you all choose to hand that money out. The mental health piece of it, each county got $18,181.81. That money can go to your EMS agencies, and here's what we've been kind of helping out county commissioners with this one, is let the EMS agencies in your county present to you their plan on developing that regional team. And that money goes to their training. Otherwise, the three of you will have to figure out how to develop that team. And I think it'd be easier if you just let them bring the plan to you, and then you all approve it. And then that way it supplies the money to them for that training.
To kind of jump gears for just a moment, concerning the $9 million piece of this bill.
Sure.
You know, we can spend it one time, quarterly, monthly, like you said, before December 24th of this year, December of 24. So that being said, I mean, is there any contingency tied to the money? Does it just go to their coffers and they can spend it on whatever they want? Is there any
They
kind
can
of
only
safeguard
spend
to
on
make
salary.
sure?
They can only spend on salary enhancement. It can't go to anything else. It can't go to trucks. It can't go to supplies. It cannot be, it has to go to their paycheck, which is why we require in the rules, it's required that they send back the name of the provider, that WV number, because they can't double dip. So if I'm working for agency A, B, and C, which is typical for EMS, they can't get the salary enhancement from all three agencies. They can only get it from their primary agency. And that's also in the rules, that it's presumed that you'll get it from your primary agency.
Should
So-
any or all of these funds be misspent by the companies, because all in Nicholas County are privately owned? Not to pick on them, but they are. If any or all of these funds are misspent, what's the protections on those funds?
It's my option whether or not to withhold that funding from you this year. in the upcoming year, because another $10 million, and I believe I saw Senator Deeds in there. It's, the other $10 million got approved again in the budget as of today. It's still there. And in the rules, it's at my discretion. I'll say it's at my.
Now, so is that the total amount or what was misspent?
It doesn't specify in the rule which way. And to be truth be honest, even though it come through my office, it would be the director and the commissioner and everybody would be involved in that decision. But what we hope to do, and that's why we're asking for the name of the provider, their WV number, and how much they got, so we can calculate it up ourselves. We can go back to any provider to make sure to double check. We've got some counties who's county commissioners are requiring a pay stub to prove that's exactly where that money went to. So that way the county commissioners are above board and they don't have to worry about anything, and they are ensuring that the agency is above board.
My only concern is, let's say agency B misspends their money, but agency A does it correctly.
We would
You're
go
gonna
after-
strip all the funding from the county, everybody gets punished.
we would go
Because
straight
we don't
to-
have any protection on any kind of oversight really, other than requiring documents after the fact, after we just write them a check.
we would go strictly after agency B if they misspent money.
Okay, okay.
And is there any specifications as to what type of employee? I mean, it seems to me that we're not having issues with administrative and management. We're having issues with truck drivers and your EMTs and medics.
Exactly. So what we did is you have to at least ran 10 calls in a year's time. And I realize that seems like a low number, but whenever you go to a very small county in this state and you find volunteers, 10 calls in a year is tops for them, right? So they have to at least run 10 calls. It can be for an emergency vehicle operator, which is EMVO, EMTB, AEMT, or paramedic.
Yes, definitely want the qualifications there. So you don't just have somebody jumping in a truck, running 10 rounds and they say, hey, no, I'm good to go.
Yes.
Now, what about like a supervisor position, a management position, something like that?
As long as they've had to at least ran 10 calls and be a certified provider in the state.
Give me 5 seconds, I'll figure out something. Yeah, call him and then tell me what he says. Yeah. But that, you all have any questions? Sorry, go ahead.
Great, Kirby.
What'd you say?
I'll tell you that.
Okay.
That's actually the only one I had. Trucks split up based on call volume.
Director McGinnis, do you have any questions or anything to add?
No.
Okay, and we are joined here by Senator Vince Deed, Senator Jack David Woodrum, and Delegate Heather Tolley. Is there any input you all have or any questions concerning how this would apply to Nicholas County?
I feel the director answered the question well.
Okay,
It'll help with your retention of your staff
Yes.
from the squads that we have here. Absolutely. You and Barman in between.
we have one agency that actually is not located here, but was gracious enough to put one truck in the county. And they lost that worker, and now we just have a truck sitting there because they can't replace it.
Yes,
So I
definitely
mean,
need
one
WV.
whole area that's only covered by one truck to begin with, underserved.
Much appreciated. So we cut 2 checks and is it 2 or 3? Two, that's about
3.
I don't know if Bradley has a percentage.
Oh, they wouldn't, well, they probably wouldn't in 22, 23.
But I can double check that here short.
Now, I
So
will say,
just-
I
go
will
ahead.
add this, is, so you can look at it from 22 to 23, we didn't specify in the rules of what year, because that's whenever it came out. So when it came out in 23, we couldn't do 23 because it just came out. Or 23, so we had to say 22 to 23. But we're also telling county commissioners this, you can use it for your future. You can use it for if you want to bring people in. So if you get a new EMT, that as soon as they run 10 calls, that's recruitment to us. It's not just retention, but it's also using in the future too. So I understand that maybe, if you have to look at 23 to 24 to balance out the 911 calls, that's absolutely acceptable.
I mean, we could put that in a written proposal to your office and you all could review that before we would do that though, right?
It's all your decision. I'll be honest with you, and I mean this with all due respect. I did my part and I've got the money to you all. Now I'm literally just making sure that you all understand the rules and everything that you can do and what you're allowed to do and how you can do it. And provide as much information as I can do. You don't need to submit a proposal to me. That's for your all's decision.
Well, now I understand on funds that might be coming in the future, you could add on the other, but when it was stated earlier that this is based off calendar year 22 to 23.
That's what we did originally, but if you all want to base it off January of 23 to December of 23, that's absolutely okay too.
Is that in code? Is that in writing somewhere for our
We
records?
put that in writing because we knew things would be changing, so we kind of left that one out.
Now,
Greg, I'll review that with you.
what about this is for EMS, like the ambulance drivers, things like that. Are we gonna get any kickback from the helicopter people wanting their cut too?
Should be adequately funded and staffed.
Does this address the situation with air ambulance?
That situation did come up. The only thing that I can say is that if either air medical company did not submit anything to the county commission, if they are not on the 911 rotation or did not get a 911 call or did not submit anything to the county commission, then no, I don't know of any other county commission who is supplying money to air medical. That I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
No, the only two was submitted anything with Ready Care and Jane.
Is that like time period already passed to submit?
When we filled out the application to send in, those was the only two on
Okay.
on our system at the time.
Okay.
Yes, enough.
Right.
And you have those percentages?
I do, I sent them in, but I can get you a copy, yes.
Now, on the 1 million side of the mental health initiative team, and you mentioned the EMS agencies propose a plan, is that per agency? It's not like a countywide thing, but each company can do their own
What should
plan.
happen is Jan Care and Ready Care should join forces there and submit a plan together on how they're going to do it. That's what's being done in the other counties that Jan Care is in. They've worked with the other agencies in those counties to submit a plan to their county commission to spend that $18,181.81
Now, is that required or recommended?
required.
Okay,
What I recommend is that they submit the plan to you all. The way the rule reads is it's up to the county commission to develop the team. But unless you all, and I have no idea your background, so don't take this disrespectful, but unless you've worked at EMS or know how the system works, you're better off just to have them submit the plan to you all look it over, and if you agree with that's the best way to do it. Then you can-
absolutely. Absolutely.
I guess the question is we have some areas that are underserved. And the EMS services have asked us to supplement. Can we utilize this to help supplement that? To serve those areas?
I would probably need a more specific on how.
So to give you an example, Nettie and Levacy are underserved.
And
They're in Richwood. But we had looked for a proposal from the different agencies on primarily Nettie Levacy, which it would be stationed in Nettie, so it would be less than 25 minutes to Richwood to kind of cover it also. And we received proposals over $100,000 from both agencies.
Per truck.
Per truck, per year.
The only way, honestly, the way the rule is written, you can only give that percentage to that agency. You can put stipulations on there. I mean, I know some county commissioners have had agencies sign a contract saying that they'll continue to work in the county for 2 years or 3 years or a year, or have people stay on an agency for so long. So there are some stipulations. I think that one is something you would probably have to work out with the agency specific. We don't have a rule for it or against it. So if we don't have a rule for it or against it, my opinion is it's legal. It would be up to the agency, and as long as that money is spent for salary enhancement, then you're well within the legal right of the law.
Okay.
We just need to negotiate.
Yes, what we can do is talk to them and say, all right, company A, here's $120,000 for a truck at Nettie, but it's gonna be for their salaries. And that, like he said earlier, it's a recruitment thing. And then that's something that, because they would have to supply the truck, the equipment, all that, and we would just take care of the salary part. Correct, Jody?
As long as when you say the salary part, think of salary enhancement. It's got to go above and beyond their normal salary.
Normal
So
salary,
the
yeah.
agencies would still take care of the salary. Your money would take it above and beyond that.
Right. So we'd still have to probably negotiate the difference on
Yes, but that'd be
the same.
It's a help.
It's a help, but it's not a solver.
Right.
Yeah. Good.
We need a motion, we want to move forward, I'd just like to set on it, and I've got questions about it.
Probably don't, we probably just need to sit down with John.
I think we just need to call a
and
special
the
meeting with
services,
both services,
And then.
discuss it with them, then we can bring
questions
it back to a
and-
vote. I'm not comfortable
And
with
probably
vote
get a
today.
list of what their salaries are now. And then we have something to go back.
And if you could prepare the records on 22 to 23 for now. Until we figure out if we go elsewhere.
Yeah, and you can ask for certified payrolls, make them certify what the payroll is to you, and then you can get certified payrolls as this goes along to kind of monitor it.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Mr. Ratliff, we appreciate your time this morning.
Absolutely. If you all need anything at all, don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. That being said, we do have the Richwood Police Department for request of cruisers. However, I would like to amend the agenda and put that after our appointment with Senator Deeds, as well as our appointment with Director McGinnis, so he can get back out in the field. Is there any objection to that? Hearing none, we'll go on to the next agenda item. That being said, we have Senator Vince Deeds with us, accompanied by Senators Jack David Woodrum and Delegate Heather Tolley. And this is concerning the Craigsville Senior Center. And we do have Mr. Carl Groves with us this morning from Craigsville Senior Center. Good morning.
Distinguished.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The honor. Carl Groves. Yes, sir. Senator Deeds.
Sure. Thank you all for having us today, and really, we come here and I'll read the letter here in a moment, but after I got to know Mr. Groves, and it's well known that he was readily engaged with the senior citizen community in Craigsville, which needs support. I think they serve right around 90 people a day, and that's really important, especially to the rural communities. So with myself and Senator Woodrum and of course Delegate Tolley, we solicited some LEADA money, local economic development money, and we've been fortunate enough to gather that through the governor's office. So I'll read the letter briefly, and then we'll present this. It goes to the county commission first. So Commissioner Chapman has the check, so to speak. So don't watch him going to the bank. Okay.
Don't worry, we will.
It's called thirds.
No, it's not.
And this is from Governor Justice. Dear commissioners, congratulations on the local economic development assistance grant you've been awarded by the West Virginia Senate. Please find enclosed a check for $10,000 as requested by the West Virginia Senate to be used to repair the heating and cooling, and also repair the floors and entrance to the Craigsville Senior Center. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can contact West Virginia Senate Finance Committee. Thank you for the commitment to doing great work in the state of West Virginia. Signed, Governor Jim Justice. So that's we're excited to help out on these type of projects, and thankful that we have this opportunity.
Absolutely. And could you state the amount for the record?
Yeah, it's $10,000.
Wonderful. Carl, I hope you're excited. Very good.
Worried about.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. If you even want to present them to Carl there.
Sure.
We'll get you
Yeah,
taking pictures.
Yep. Everybody, if we can.
Well, yeah, we can. Let's do a quick reset for our next appointment. Yeah.
So.
All right, that being said, we're back to Homeland Security Center Director, Homeland Security and Emergency Management Director, John McGinnis. This is concerning a funding request concerning the new Homeland Security Center. Director McGinnis and I did attend a building commission meeting, yesterday. And it seems like they're a lot closer than they thought they would be.
Right.
But if you want to expand more on what we still might have left.
Yes, we still have several projects to tidy up, the building itself, which we had some change orders, and most of those were either mechanical or electrical. We still would like to pave the parking lot. And I am putting in for a Homeland Security grant for the fencing and security out back, for the employees and the sheriff's department. With some of the change orders that we had and some of the future, things we have to finish up, we're still looking at somewhere around 800 to 150 just to be safe. I think the building commission has over 100 left, right around. So, what I'm asking is if we could secure and not use, but just have it as a safety net around 150,000 to finish up the entire building itself. And part of that 150 would also include bidding out the paving project. We did get quotes on the paving projects, which was over a year ago. Inflation's went up a little bit. However, we have to bid that out.
Yes.
So that would be part of that money as well. Do I think we will use it all? No, but I would just like to have that secure safety if need to be.
Because there was an incidental, you guys ran into some unexpected with the HVAC system, right?
Yeah.
Do you have those unaccounted things for where you're reutilizing something that's
Yes.
used in the past?
Yes. But that's what, that's mostly, getting the UPS system wired up, the backup generator and so on. But as far as construction, the construction part is done. The contract's already been signed by the engineer. I do have the payment for the last, construction that I'll be delivering to Flint, Friday.
If you want to give me that, I'll take it today.
Okay. All right. But other than that, we're ahead of schedule, I feel. My office is planning on moving in the first week of May. And then hopefully the 911 center will get into sometime in June after they get trained. This week, we've been in a standstill as far as installation due to the weather and all the emergencies that's taking place. So we're all committed to take care of everybody in Nicholas County first, and then we'll deal with the building next week.
And as far as the sheriff's department, when do they expect to put the new done by?
I'm not sure. I'll have to get with the sheriff on that.
There's no holdups. It's just a matter of them completing. that
Yes.
work. Okay.
Yes.
So
They
they can be
have
there.
occupancy, don't they?
Yes.
Partial?
Yes, we have partial occupancy that includes all of my offices, 911 addressing, and all the sheriff's department offices.
So the sheriff's department can move in today if they wanted to.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
And I really need those offices done
Yes.
if we can get them.
The only thing that we need to do as far as that's concerned is getting a couple of days and get those two windows out of the sheriff's department office as well as addressing them at it.
The bulletproof
Yes,
glass.
sir.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gosh, man of the hour. So just talking about you. All good, of course.
There it is.
Right.
But yes, so, and he can elaborate on his offices up top. He's been doing all the work up there, but I plan on trying to move all my stuff in by May 1st.
What's your estimated time of moving the deputies and their secretaries?
I'm waiting on some secretaries' furniture that was shorted, kind of like that company. I think we shipped that last week. Well. Supposed to be initial shipping, I guess. So I don't really know when we can get it, so I just got a confirmation. I'm waiting on that stuff. There's some things that are gonna be built for glass. Upstairs, that's already all the deputy discs assembled. Working on floors today, stripping and waxing. But we'll all have that room finished today, and then I gotta do the hallway. And just tidied up some other small stuff up there. I mean, the main thing really is the secretary getting their stuff squared away. I mean, people work around, getting that testing and stuff. But they're not all done. Not that. I think it's in a few weeks or something for cable.
As soon as the cables get in, yes.
And they gotta get the phones, all up and running. Is the radio equipment on?
No, not
I
yet.
didn't
No,
think so.
no, they're still installing that. It'll be a couple more weeks.
Well,
for that.
the antennas and the,
They want to do it this week, but they want to wait till next Monday to start back on it. Yes.
Well, the main, we're not in any hurry with any of your stuff except for those two offices back there that we need to move the circuit clerk. So if, as soon as you can, if you can get that stuff moved down there for you and Johnny or whatever, that's where we really need is that area right there, because the Supreme Court wants to come up and take a walk through to make sure we're okay. With everything.
yeah.
Because we got to get that ready, the circuit clerk ready, in order to to move them to get the new judges' offices. And everything's got to be done by the 1st of January. The new judge takes office.
It'll take all it should be January 1.
I thought it was December 31st.
Okay, we take,
But like maybe.
I'm not sure. This whole new situation, I have no clue.
Well, this is a new day, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm hoping for December 31st. Buys a little bit more time. Okay.
do you need,
He said, January.
help from us
Oh, they said July.
with anything about?
I mean, no, I mean, some point, I mean, that building's got to be cleaned. I'm telling you, a lot of it's burning, like a week, like that's my goodness. It's downstairs, window upstairs, of course upstairs. Too bad. Every time somebody comes in there and does something, make a mess and leave it.
Right.
Those fire guys came in a couple of weeks ago, my gosh, that stuff, everywhere, whatever they pour into cutting was still on the floor and insulation laying around, and I walk in, I'm like, I mean, serious, that's part of the job, cleaning this.
I agree. You're supposed to be, but we know what it's like trying to get people to work for you.
Yeah, it is, I mean, I tried with DRC down there, and the problem with DRC is you get them down there and, they'll be there for an hour and a half, or, oh, we got a class, I mean, or we gotta go do this, and so it's such a battle. Out there.
Where was the?
Then who-
who gave us the
yeah.
card?
We were at Flatwoods. That's what I was just thinking about. If we just contracted
If we
out
just
one good
contract
time.
him one big deep clean,
Yeah.
that's what we need.
Yeah.
We need to find that lady's name.
She cleaned for
Now, I know
another county.
Shannon, is this week, the person next week, she's gonna go down and completely clean their office. Because I mean, essentially, I think what to do is I gotta send you one desk for the computer there. And I need to move the printer down there and that stuff and all the files. I ordered filing cabinets. I got half of them in day before yesterday, and the other shipment should be coming here in the next day or two. So we'll have the filing cabinets to be able to make the moves from all those files down. The main things up bulletproof window phones, and I mean, they're all just good. But when the
Right.
But I mean, I wouldn't think it would take too long. That's here for.
That's fine.
But I wouldn't think it should take too long to get that. Sure. It's gonna-
Okay. Does that work with what you're working for?
Yeah,
Okay.
just as fast as we can put anything on it, so just.
I would have thought all them file cabinets would come in together would be.
Partial cabinets.
Start out. Well, I do know they're coming from two different warehouses, but still,
Somewhere.
I mean, I don't know how they can be weak partnership, but whatever. These companies are.
Wherever there's a trade.
Right.
Okay, we're good. Do we need to vote on John's money?
Yes, what I was gonna propose for consideration is, I mean, we set aside funding for broadband, and we definitely need to keep of it as much as we can, but perhaps reallocate 150,000 of that towards the 911 Sheriff's Department Center, to make sure that we have ample funding to complete what we need to complete. That being said, I believe it should be held by the commission and on a reimbursable basis through the building commission when projects come up, and that we approve the projects. And that they go through proper procedure.
Probably in this situation, though, it's, I mean, it's just stuff we could pay for. We don't need to go through another whole agency. Do we? It's for paving the parking lot and some stuff that, like, where we had some change orders due to electrical and stuff. But so John's figuring he's gonna run over about 150 grand. That's just money that we can pay the invoices out of here.
Sure.
So I'd say we just allow that in the general county, and if we gotta go back to the other money to get it, we do. Like a budget revision.
So you're saying general county?
Yeah.
Okay,
Then if we need to pull it out of that other, we have it in there to do that.
okay. You have an opinion on that?
Probably better to do it out of revenue.
That's my,
Because it's got to be.
right. That's kind of where I'm at.
Even though we did the procedures to pull it over, it's still got to be shown by a certain date.
Yeah, because it has to be spent by 26. Yeah. So that'd be my
If you don't
recommendation.
think we'll spend it on broadband.
We're gonna finance it with USDA.
Make a motion that we fund $150,000 out of revenue recovery, so what you call it, Bobby?
And that would be deducted out of the commitments on broadband. Only because we have better plans coming available that we can,
We still had some, there was about 400,000 in there over and above that too.
but it's all committed, isn't it?
About somewhere 3 or 4.
Well, then we better commit it to that.
Yeah.
So scratch subtracting from broadband.
Yep.
Revenue loss recovery, which was the
ARC.
American Rescue Plan money that has not been committed yet. Okay, that motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. We did, before the next agenda item, we did rearrange the agenda. And this is concerning the Richwood Police Department request for cruisers. The backstory on this is 3 years ago, in the beginning stages of the opioid settlements that the county was engaged with, like multiple other, well, all other counties except for Cabell County. We were only receiving so much, and Richwood was basically receiving nothing. I think it was less than $30,000, and they were, frankly, they were unwilling to sign the agreement. That both cities and the county had to sign. But in that process, it was discovered actually that there was a discrepancy in the formula that was being proposed, because it had the city of Summersville still owning the hospital, and where they had already actually sold out to WVU Medicine, the calculation was off, and that recalculation actually afforded the Nicholas County Commission over $200,000 more in opioid settlement funds that we have received now. But at that point, it was, it was a great increase in what we received. And part of that, led by Commissioner Atkins, the commission did, myself and Commissioner Neal did commit to the consideration of 2 cruisers for Richwood Police, because they keep getting all these used ones. It's 100,000 miles, and they last them a couple years maybe, and they just fall apart. And so that's kind of where this comes to. They were helping finding that discrepancy. Midstate Ford does have the state bid on, is it the SUV models?
Yes, Explorer.
on the Ford Explorers. And they do have 2 available. And so it would be my proposal that we consider those 2 cruisers with the absolute understanding that this is it. Thanks for your help. Here's a little bit of help, and we're all moving on separate ways.
So are you looking for motion?
Yes, I saw the email from Midstate with the bids. However, the bids are not attached on mine. If you all could look and see if they're on me. Mine didn't get the attachments. And this is the same pricing that West Virginia State Police has bought, like 60 or some large number like that through Midstate already. They do have the bids on the F-150 Interceptor trucks. However, I don't believe we need to go to that extent. They have one of the Durangos too. North side.
I'm going to take the attachments, but I've got them here.
Okay. There we go. Okay, thank you. It might just be these iPads. This is a bid again from Midstate Ford of Summersville. Like to keep this stuff in county. They had considered an out-of-state dealership before, and frankly, I think we all kind of shared our sentiments, but my sentiment is that we weren't going to do that.
Yeah, at that time, they said it's only the only people that had them in stock, the closest place they could find was in Indiana, in
Okay.
stock.
Okay.
I think they thought they were gonna get them that day.
Well, I'm not for that, but I understand, I respect it, but I'm not for that. I'm definitely in county or surrounding counties, and they do have 2 available here.
Yes.
These are 2024 Ford Explorers. They're identical. Similar to what we've bought for the sheriff's department, you see from state police and other agencies. And the bids, the state bids are in the amount of $44,829.94, and that's each, of course, so that'll be doubled. And so that'll be a combined total of $89,659.88. That's what this is for. Because I don't want to mess it up. And so that would be the proposal here this morning for them. And these are proposed to the city of Richwood, but they'll need to be proposed to the county. And then we would transfer.
Will they'll be titled in there? No. I mean, you talk about the title.
No, the title will go in there. But we need these quotes in our name. We don't have to. Oh, okay. I thought we'd have to. So, okay. So then we're
about it.
okay.
All right, I'll make a proposal that we fund these 2 cruisers taken from the $89,659.88 taken from the opioid settlement money.
Okay, that motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Anything from legal counsel?
No, just to be clear, that was an agreement that has been in place for quite some time.
And this is to come from the half that has to go towards the calls, right?
Mm,
It's 50% has to go to the calls, the other 50% is discretionary.
would this be considered recovery efforts because it's law enforcement, or would it be also
It's very broad.
prevention? Yeah. So can we do a motion? We don't clarify which half, and then we can Clarify that later, or should we clarify and then amend it if we have to?
I don't know that it matters from the standpoint of your motion, where the money comes from. I mean, it's coming from those recovery. funds.
Okay. Okay. So if we could have a clarification on the motion, then we can. Well, so your motion is to approve the request of $89,659.88 for these two cruisers from the opioid.
First check on the opioid, so.
Okay. Clarify. Okay. That being said, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. That brings us back to the set order of our agenda, and this is concerning a proposal of a design competition for the county commission seal, which will be separate from the county seal placed behind us here in the meeting room, but the county seal behind us actually come from a high school competition 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And a student from Richwood High School actually designed the one that was selected by the commission at that point. And Commissioner Roberts had mentioned possibly repeating that process again for a county commission specific seal separate from the county seal.
Right, I think in the digital age, when you're trying to brand yourself, when you look professional, that we specify down to this level. We're looking at a potential digital newsletter that goes out with our business partners. In other words, the mayors of both cities in the county, our partners at Region 4 Planning Development, our partners at USDA, just a highlighted bulleted newsletter that goes out at least once a month, maybe twice a month, to capture any activities we have going on so they can come and ask questions if they need to. We want to build that partnership. And I think some other things that we're looking at doing. So we talked about having some sort of competition to redesign that, something similar to this, but something that captures all aspects of the county, and it'd be specifically for the county commission. Now I know there's some numbers that thrown around there. We talked about a scholarship type thing. So we'd look at a student maybe between the ages of 16 and 23 that we're going to seek college, and it would be paid out directly to them, a one-time fee or a one-time scholarship of $500.
I'd do more than that.
But what are we gonna do if somebody designs it and they don't go to college?
I think it would, in my mind, that check should go directly out to them, to the college itself. They would forego.
One proposal I might request is that we leave it for like high school juniors and seniors going to college as a scholarship
Or vacations.
or vocation.
Yes, just post-secondary education.
Some sort of post-secondary, but maybe limited to just the high school students.
Not opposed to it. I'm just trying to get a broad, a broad array of options to choose from. So I know there's a graphic design class here at Devotech. I'm sure they would partake in something like a good class project in my mind. We don't want to limit it only to them, but like I said, I think it's a good aid and a good urge to go to college or trade school. Basically continue your education after high school.
Right.
So I'll make a motion that we open up this design competition. We'll set the specifics ahead at some point in time, maybe even the next school year, which we're just less than 6 months away from that. And my motion would be for a $500 scholarship. Juniors and seniors in Nicholas County.
Is it too late to do it this year? I don't know.
Yeah, specifically, I don't. Sort of what April, they graduate in a month, a little over a month and a half, 2 months, yeah. We got the month of April and then what's left in May. They usually pull out about the middle of May, the seniors do. So 6 weeks, it shouldn't take somebody more than a couple of days, honestly, they know what they're doing.
And then when they, if we make the decision, they have a day, they do scholarship
Yeah.
things and we can hand it out.
I mean, I think all that's fine, but maybe try and push it for this year.
Good. Definitely good.
We could put out a thing to the schools, kind of like aspects of the county that could be considered to be a part of, and
So basically we target Nicholas County High School and Richmond High School, juniors and seniors, it'd be easy. That way we only got 2 entities we're dealing with.
Yeah.
They can disperse that out to.
Well, New Life
You
probably.
know
Okay.
You do 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
we
shouldn't be anything else. Well, and probably should try to make it available to homeschool seniors, juniors and seniors.
Yeah,
too.
just anybody, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to,
But in those class range.
the schools should all have that. Or even send it to the Board of Education, that way we've got one point of contact.
Yeah, the Board of
Sort it
Education
out.
should have a contact way to.
Yep.
Get it to all of them, including the homeschool. So is all that in your motion?
Sure,
The specific
So moved.
that,
so moved
because you mentioned set them later.
this year.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any clarification needed? Any, that motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion or questions? I think it's a neat little idea and I appreciate you coming up with that, Commissioner Robertson. Hope to see what we come up with.
It'll be
That being-
trademarked to us, that image would be property of the county. So we need a, I forget what they call it, a release, digital release.
It's a good idea.
Learned that with photos, the photographer owns the photos, unless they sign over to it.
Okay, that being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, motion does carry. That brings us to our commissioners' comments. Want to definitely show our appreciation. I'm definitely not speaking just for myself, but everybody else can clarify. For our first responders, our law enforcement, EMS, and especially our fire departments in their responses over the last 24 hours and what they're going to be putting up with for probably the next couple of days. Want to show our appreciation to the linemen, both telecommunication and power, for trying to get everything put back on as fast as they can. Definitely not favorable circumstances, but as we know from our neighbors in Fayette County, we're more fortunate than some, and we need to be grateful for that too. Okay. That being said, is there a motion to adjourn this regularly scheduled meeting of the Nicholas County Commission? Today is Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, and it is 12:10 PM.
Motion to adjourn.
They're fighting over that one. You can put on whoever you want. That being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry, and we do stand adjourned from this regularly scheduled meeting. That being said, I would like to have a motion to reconvene into our emergency meeting to clear up any other further business from that emergency meeting.
Motion.
Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? That being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. And so we are back into our emergency meeting concerning courthouse facilities and county response to the recent weather events, and it's 12:10 AM. You did show me the capabilities during a state of emergency concerning contract labor. Could you explain this?
Yeah, essentially what it says, the governor has declared a state of emergency for Nicholas County and a couple of others, Fayette, and I forget what the third one was at all. You do not have, that suspends the bidding requirements for services under these types of situations. Anywhere from 25 to 100 to 10,000, you get three oral bids. Anything above 10,000, you get 3 written bids or quotes. If it's such a dire emergency and you can't get the 3 written quotes in time, you go ahead and award that bid and then get the quotes within 5 days, the written quote within 5 days.
How's that work if it's less?
So less than 25, you don't need any.
I mean, so if we get three quotes or 3 bids and we go ahead and award one, and then one that comes in later is less. We did.
Well, you're gonna get the quote from the one you ordered.
Okay, I'm with you.
I mean, they just have to follow up within 5 days.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. Because it's going from verbal to written.
Yeah, but if it comes in written, I guess you have to make up the difference.
And then we would need to reconvene to approve and select.
Well, if you get. No, I think that authorizes you to move forward now just by getting 3 bids. If it's under 10,000, 3 oral bids, if it's over 10,000, 3 written bids. If it's such an emergency that you have to do it today, you just follow up with the one you award with the written bid.
And then just like report in the next commission meeting. Okay, are there any further questions or clarifications needed on that? I don't have any more. Do you have anything else to add? Okay. That being said, I believe we have a good clarification on how we can proceed on all these different,
Yeah, and just let your department heads do this to so you don't wear yourself out. Just, you can approve it, but let Sally and people like that.
well, let me ask you this, if we don't have to have a meeting and we get 3 quotes, can I communicate that to the other 2 commissioners out of a meeting? But how do we award? Does the president just award? Do we have a meeting to award?
Just go ahead and do that, and then we'll, at the next meeting, we'll ratify and confirm.
Okay,
I mean, it doesn't make sense in an emergency situation to suspend the bidding, then have to call a meeting to award.
right. Okay. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll try and get all those bids collected, like you said, into one piece, and we can all circulate it with you and us. And then,
These rules are suspended for so long as there's an emergency. Once the governor issues a proclamation releasing that, you have to go back to the.
oh, this is silly, but just for clarification, if we get these bids award and that same afternoon, they're already awarded, and that same afternoon, the state of emergency's dropped. It's still, it's already awarded. Okay. Okay, hearing no other business? There's a motion on the floor to adjourn this emergency meeting that was called today, Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, that began roughly at 8:50 a.m. Recess for the regular meeting, re-adjourned and now being adjourned. And it is 12:14 p.m. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. We do stand adjourned from this meeting as well.